everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. Really excited today to have our guest. She had such a cool story. She was just kind of filling me in before I hit record. Theresa Hubbard is here with us. Teresa's a therapist, and she's got some other things going on too that I can't wait to jump into. But Theresa, I always start this out and just say, how'd you go from being a typical therapist to a traveling therapist?
Sure. Well, I went to Oregon and there was just this experience really in my body of like, wow, this feels so peaceful for me. And it really was that. That was the beginning. And I went there for a retreat. The retreat was lovely, but really it was the place. And then just kept going back and exploring. I mean, I love exploring wherever. I travel. I mostly do cash pay. So it's easy for me to do remote work, but Oregon spoke to me. And so I'm between here, Missouri, which is where I am, grew up, raised, my main practice is here. And then Oregon really became, I don't know, like my second home. And so we bought a place out there 4 years ago. And then we actually just bought another home last November that we are remodeling that we will have retreats at. We do retreats here in Missouri, but we also will do retreats out there. It's under those huge tall trees next to the water and the mountains. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, we traveled. We spent a month in Bend. I loved it out there. It was so pretty. And
Yeah.
where's the other place? Medford, just
Oh,
randomly.
yep.
Medford,
Yep.
it was so pretty. We were like, we might have to come back here one day. We end up in the weirdest places. It's like, how do we end up in Medford for 2 weeks? We just drive until we're tired and then we get an Airbnb and crash and,
Right.
along the way.
Right. We do that too, Kim. We do
I
that
love
too. It's
that.
kind of like, let's just turn down that road and see
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
here.
what's
Yeah.
there? That's the
Mhm.
funnest way to do it, I think, in my opinion. And then Missouri, we ended up in this cute little town called Rocheport. I guess that's how you pronounce it, Rocheport in
Oh,
Missouri.
yes. It's
It's the
closer to
cutest
St.
little
Louis.
town. Oh my gosh, and a little winery. We stayed in Airbnb and like right down the road was this little winery and they had like this long bike trail. It was so cute.
Yeah.
So you're bringing back memories.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for sharing that. I love that. That's really cool to show that you can just kind of be in both places and make that work with your business and everything. So you are a therapist, but what I'd
Mhm.
love to talk about is you also have a podcast and you have a
Yes.
partner that you've kind of gone into business with. So I would love to talk
Yeah.
about what's that like and, how are you guys working that out? And then, of course, what you're putting out into the world. I'd love to talk about that too, so everybody listening can know more about it.
Yeah. So for me, the name of the podcast is called My Inner Knowing. And we started just audio. And then we had a lot of feedback from people that they wanted to see Walker and I interact with each other. They didn't just want to hear us. And so we actually moved to video. So YouTube's our primary platform. I mean, we're on Spotify and Apple and all the things, but YouTube obviously is where our main video library is. And for me, the My Inner Knowing came from a retreat that I did 16 years ago, where part of the lesson was I listened to and follow my inner knowing. And so as a clinician, I feel like often that's what we're trying to help people learn, right? Like, who am I? What do I want? What's important to me? What do I value? And so that's really what the My Inner Knowing came from. And I knew in my relationship with Walker that the way that we put effort into our relationship every day, because that was really when he expressed to me that he cared for me. And I was like, I don't think you like know what my expectations of relationship are.
Let me break it down to you before you
Right.
get involved too far.
Right. So, like, our first big talk really was that, which
Yeah.
was I have pretty high expectations. I don't need anybody. Would
Mhm.
love, a relationship that is important to me, but I have to be in relationship with someone who will put effort in every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Doesn't have to be
Nice.
perfect. Messy. We have t-shirt that says it's messy. One says we are so complex, right? Like it's really this like awareness that regardless, our humanness, our
Yeah.
story, are we sick? Are our
Yeah.
parents sick? Is a child sick? Right? Like life is complex. And so what I was continually aware of as our relationship, because right now we've been in 7, 8 years, is that both of us just keep putting effort in. And healthy relationship is really the most important thing to us. Life goal, healthy relationship. And so I just said to him several years ago, I really feel like it would be helpful for people to hear us interact. And he was like, "Nobody wants to listen to us." And I was like, "Well, I hear you, but, I do this all day, every day, and I we don't have a lot of good models of the messy. Like, we get a lot of instruction.
Mhm.
We can but being willing to risk showing it, I
Yeah.
think is different. Not talk about it. I mean, we talk about it too, but we really are demonstrating it." And so I had brought it up again in 2023, and he said, "Okay, let's do it." And so
Wow.
we started out as audio and then got the feedback for video. We added the video last fall, and we do have guests on as
Oh,
well.
nice.
It started out like every other week, but now it kind of just depends on, what we have to talk about, we're wanting to talk about. And it's a wide variety of guests. So they're not, some of them are clinicians, some of them are not clinicians. Some have written books, some have not written books. There's one with one of my kids that is wonderful and lovely.
Aw.
And he's very willing to be open emotionally about his experience, as a person, but also like as my son. And so, and then
Wow.
Walker and I talk about hard things, parts of us, that are growing, like we're actively in the process of trying to grow. And it's not always easy.
Yeah, I couldn't
Um,
I'm sitting here envisioning me and my partner, Ken. If we were to do this, that would be so interesting. It's so brave because I think we're pretty healthy, but, there's things. I'm just thinking
yes.
about, oh my god.
And Walker will say, people are going to hate me. And I'm like, no, babe, actually, they appreciate your willingness to be this
Mhm. It's
vulnerable. Like,
amazing.
this is like what you're doing is so brave. I mean, I get to practice this, right? Every day, all day.
Yeah.
And he does as a trial attorney, but in a very different way, right?
Yes.
And so, what he loved about it initially, Kim, was really that when we started recording the podcast, it was this very dedicated, uninterrupted, like sensory deprivation, like we're just immersed in each other, really.
Wow.
And he really loved that uninterrupted time. And so I think that is kind of like what kept him going initially. And then he started getting feedback from people
Mhm.
himself just about how helpful it was
Oh,
and how
good.
his willingness to step in was inspiring women actually to risk being in relationship again. And
Oh.
that was so shocking to him to have that awareness that his vulnerability was really that impactful, both on men and women. And it is interesting, that we have a huge young male population that our audience.
Wow.
And so there's, obviously whatever it is appealing to people. And it really is a modeling that we're doing. I mean, we do, again, talk about it, but we're in it.
It makes me think about I was watching this is so cheesy, but I was at my sister's house just visiting her, and she was like, "What should we watch?" And we were like, "Let's binge watch Love is Blind." And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's
Uh-uh.
like men and women that are like talking through a wall. Basically, they can't see each other until like they propose.
Oh,
So it's like reality television, but the men are so vulnerable and
mm,
open. And she even said to me, she was like, "Are men like this?" Because we both been in long-term relationships and our guys are pretty great. But she's like, "Are men even like this?" And we were both like really shocked by it. So hearing you say that, it just makes me think about just last week watching Love is Blind and just being really surprised actually to see men being so vulnerable because there is such a stigma. And, I
right.
talk to my clients that are trying to date and they're just like, there's no good men out there, So I'm sure it's very refreshing.
It is refreshing. And, if you choose to listen to my son's episode, it's called Extra Pickles. He was 21 when we recorded that last year. And that's all three of my boys. I have four children, but they obviously grew up with me being very curious, and sharing a lot. And Walker's been a really great influence in their life since he came in as well, really reaffirming that it's good and safe and healthy
Mhm.
to be vulnerable and authentic. You don't have to be performative to be loved, that you
Yeah.
really can just be you. But yeah, I work with a lot of young men too. I mean, I had a client this morning with an 18-year-old, and it just is, I mean, and I've worked with him on and off the last few
Mhm.
years, and just to watch his growth in that and his desire as he steps into college in the fall to be like I just said, you have this opportunity to be you. All the story of grade school, middle school, high school, like it can fall behind. Who do you want to be? And he said, I want to be kind. I want to be caring. I mean, it makes me emotional, like
Oh, me
thinking
too. It's
about it, right?
amazing.
He said, I want people when they say, who is that? They can say, he's a really nice guy. And it just is like, yes, I mean, there are, I just don't think, yes, I don't think our media really does a good job of, showing us this desire for that.
Oh,
But I can see it in our following. I mean, when the majority of our audience is male and
yeah.
between the ages of 18 and 45 internationally, like that's a big
I just got
message.
goosebumps just hearing you
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so it's there. So it's
Mm,
just like, how do we help them get where they're trying to go?
that's amazing.
We love it.
Oh, I love it too. It's fantastic. Now, but before we hit record, you're telling me that out of the podcast was born this other piece. So I would love to talk about that because it's so
Gosh.
interesting to me that you took it even further with what you were
Sure.
already doing, which is amazing. Yeah.
No, thank you. So last year we kept getting feedback from people that they wanted to know more about how to get in their relationship, what Walker and I demonstrate.
Mhm.
And so what I actually did is I analyzed all of our podcast and pulled out what I felt like were the most significant things that we do
Mhm.
to reinforce healthy relationship. And again, healthy relationship being our number one life goal. And then I created the structure for a course to demonstrate those 10 things. And so Walker and I recorded like an hour-long video on each of those topics. And then it's a deep dive course. It's, journal prompts to really help you learn more about yourself in relationship, our resistance that we have in a relationship, the competitiveness, that piece that comes up in a relationship, and then exercises. So we have like bigger, exercises, like something you're going to work on
Mhm.
over time. But then there's also what we call micro challenges, which are just things that we can do every day to
Mhm.
help us get to that place. And so
Nice.
ultimately, so that we can create more safety with each other. And it doesn't have to be our intimate partner. It really is any relationship that we value, that we want to put effort into every day. So it's a big course. I
Yeah.
would say the people that have started taking it, because Walker and I did some reviews last week, just curious how people were experiencing it. And everything was so positive. They all were like, one module a month is probably enough. You know,
Nice.
like don't do more than 45 minutes at a time because what you're learning about yourself is so deep. You really need time to integrate
Yes.
it. And so that was a powerful experience for us. When we got done creating it, Walker said, I think I need to take the course.
He's like, "Wait, what all do we say in this thing? It
Wait,
sounds
this is the
really
thing.
amazing."
It sounds really amazing. And I was like, well, it is. And that we will always be growing. We will always
Yes.
be growing. I mean, we're
Mhm.
human. It's so funny. People say, I can't imagine that you and Walker argue. And I was like, oh, yeah, we argue. It's just that we have spent a lot of time practicing skills that they're not as frequent, they're not as intense, and they don't
Yeah.
last as long. We
Yes.
can more quickly see each other
Mhm.
sooner than later.
It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we're doing that thing again."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
that's how we are
afraid.
too.
You're afraid. Right.
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So would you do like a high touch of the categories? Because I found it so interesting when you were telling me that, like the different,
Sure.
like,
Categories.
and I guess it's not based on any other model. This is your model that you
This is
guys have
just
come up
ours
with together. So I
together.
love kind of hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one's called The Art of Deep Listening. It's really about true presence with each other.
Mhm.
And what does that look like for us, but also what does it look like for you? When do you feel most listened to? What does it
Mhm.
feel in your body for you to feel listened to? So we're really trying to create this embodied experience where you know what it feels like in each of these categories so that it's easier for you to access. And so it's not just cognitive. There's a lot of body and emotion awareness that we're building, speaking the truth, but with heart, learning how to be authentic and vulnerable, but kind at the same
Mhm.
time, learning to be more curious. So questions that build bridges. So in genuine curiosity, we talk about that. When you can
Mhm.
ask somebody a question and it can sound curious, but it's not really curious.
Yep.
And
I
so
can
we'll
relate to that. There's like an ulterior motive, right?
right, right. Then we'll demonstrate like a question like this is what it looks like when you're genuinely curious, and this is what it
Yes.
looks like when
Oh,
we're
that's
not
good.
genuinely curious. The exact same words. And then owning our choices, so accepting responsibility. And but that's about healing together if we can both accept our part, obviously being willing to really look at ourselves. Then the power of playfulness, like what does that look like for each couple? Because it's not going to be the same. The power of our story, like what is our story, our true story, not the story that we tell, when people ask us, but really what's driving us. And then what we call the wonder of knowing others, which is if we really can be interested in relationship with other people, how much our world expands and how much more likely we are to get our needs met. If we can turn into this, like people are interesting as opposed to frustrating.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating too, but
Yeah.
really the wonder of knowing others and then learning how to what we call silent connection, which is not avoidance. It's really about silent but present. Like, how can we really be with each other and hold space for each other in silence and not feel abandoned? And then, being grateful. What does being grateful look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And then ultimately, it's really leading to what we call the last module, which is holding space for hard conversations. And so Walker and I demonstrate through the podcast episodes as well, what does that look like for us to have a hard conversation? Because it's not like, when you're watching us on YouTube, you can see our body language, you can see our facial
Yeah.
expressions, you can see the tears, you can see all of it. And so we're really modeling like how to stay in it. And nothing's scripted. It's all like, what are we talking about today? And then we just start talking. And so those are, you would see it on the episode, which is where he's like, okay, I want to ask you something and this is going to be hard. Are you open for that?
Whoa. Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, always open for it. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but I always want the hard conversation because if I
Wow.
don't always want the hard conversation, then one of us is stuck. Right. So it doesn't mean it's always right then, but
Mhm.
both of us prepared to be in this space when we're recording. You know what I mean? Like we don't
Yeah, like, I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm here for it. Like that, whatever comes up, we're doing this, like that kind of thing.
right, exactly. Yeah. We're ready, even if we don't know exactly where it's going to go. And we've built a trust in each other. That
Mhm.
we're not doing this to prove anything to
Yes.
each other or to anybody. We really just hope that our willingness helps people feel like they have permission to do it too.
That's so genuine and authentic, I'm sure that's why people love your podcast. That's amazing. And
Thank
like I said before, just so brave to just be like, okay. And to trust each other. To know
yeah.
that you guys have a good enough relationship that you can, whatever's going to come up, y'all both have the emotional regulation skills and all of that to make sure you're going to get through it okay and not
Yeah.
damage each other or whatever, look embarrassed or whatever it would be to the whole world watching you.
Well, and even if it is embarrassing that we're
Oh,
willing to put
well,
that out there too, right? Because we don't edit. We edit
that's
out the
incredible.
beginning and we edit out the end, but we don't take the messy out, like me wiping my nose or taking a drink or whatever. Like it
That
just is what it is. Yeah.
You're inspiring me because many times I've been like, maybe I should just have Ken on this podcast with me to talk about what it's like just traveling together, working in the same house, moving to an Airbnb every other week or whatever. And
Yeah.
then I get that like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. But I
yeah.
like it.
Yeah. We have to be willing for whatever to come out, whatever comes out of their mouth comes out
That's
of their
cool.
mouth. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. You never know with him. So it's like, oh, I don't know. But I could add it if I wanted to, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love that you're doing that. I really wanna go listen to your podcast now because it just
Wow.
sounds so interesting to me that it's just, like, real and raw and no editing and all of that. I think that's really cool. And then, like, being a therapist, do you market this to your clients? Because that comes up a lot, right, with
Sure.
therapists that have other income streams and that sort of thing. It's like, do I talk about my products? Where's that line between, like, you're my paying client versus I've got products to sell you? I'm
Right.
just curious, like, how do you walk that line and do that with your clients? Because I guess
Sure.
they all want your advice. They probably see you on social media and the podcast.
Yeah, for sure, Kim. And what I would say, for Walker and I, there is always finding the line for us in what we charge for things. Like,
Yes.
I feel like I have enough. So financially, I feel like I have enough. I feel like my practice, I have enough. And doing a podcast has a lot of costs that may
Mhm.
not always seem easy to see. But that's how important it is to me because we really haven't monetized anything. The amount of that we have invested into doing this just to help people has been significant. And so for me, when I do, and I don't bring it up often, but I do have plenty of clients that listen. And what they always say is it's free therapy. I
Mhm.
mean, they're
Yeah.
like, it's not any different than listening to you, except Walker's with you, which they said is really interesting for them because when we're in a room with someone and we're having these conversations, and it's just the two of us, right? There's a certain amount of our body as the client, right? That's still protecting ourselves because of our own story, our shame, our guilt, our regret, our fear of not being good enough. And so our clients, to some degree, are still protected when they're in the room with us, even if they
Yeah.
know us really, really well. Because even if they know us really, really well, their abandonment stuff is still there, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they can still have fear, even if we have built a good relationship, they can still have fear that if I tell them this, they will abandon me, right? So when Walker and I talk about those exact same things,
Mm.
but they're not in this place of protection because they're not the spotlight, it hits them very differently because they're in this place where they're able to take it in, but have their own experience around it, right?
Mhm.
Where they can process it, integrate it, and then come in and talk about it. I mean, that happens often. Like, oh, I was listening to you and Walker talk, and I was
Oh,
like, oh
wow.
my gosh, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
and so people, it just is, there's a less threatening about it. But it me, I mean, who I am in the room and who I am on the podcast is the same person.
That's so cool, though. I mean, because like, I've had many therapists over the years, and I always am like, "Okay, yeah, but how are they in their relationship?" Or, you always kinda, like, have that
Right.
piece, like, "Yeah, but are they a mess when they're not here?" Like,
Right.
that kind of thing, at least for me. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody does that, but to be able to hear you be so, like, open with it and for a client to know that part of their therapist, I would think is, like, a whole other level of, like, rapport, I guess, you know?
It is. And for sure when they come on retreat too, because Walker and I facilitate retreats together. And then for them to see us then over a 4-day period,
Oh, yes.
sustain that over a 4-day period, they're like, wow, like this is really who you are. And I'm like, but this is work. I mean, this
Mhm.
is effort. We didn't get here because of
Yeah.
magic, right? Like like this
Yes.
really requires the goal of
Mhm.
healthy relationship. And then in regards to the course, we priced it really reasonably.
You did.
Again,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's $197
Oh,
for
that's
10
amazing.
modules that will take you a year to go through. And that, again, it really just is. So, from a marketing perspective, not hard for me because it's either free or it's pretty accessible. That's not
Mhm.
accessible for everybody, but we have all the payment options for people that want to do all those things that
Mhm.
are on because we're right now we do it through Kajabi. So for me, I don't feel like I'm asking more from
Yeah.
them. I really am like, that course, if you really want to work that course, I mean, that's probably 3 or 4 years worth of therapy, but you have to be doing it with someone who is really willing to be on this path with you, even
Mhm.
if it's your sister or your brother or your
Oh,
parent or,
interesting. Yes.
but
Mhm.
someone who, when you're like, okay, help me see the things about myself that I don't see and who
Mhm.
are going to do their best to give you honest feedback. Right.
Yes. Right.
So,
And then I guess the supplemental part to that is you do offer retreats. You just touched on it a little
Mhm.
bit. But so you
Yeah.
guys then offer retreats that you can go and do the work in vitro, whatever you want to call it, like
Right.
over an incubator over
Yeah.
4 days. And
Yeah.
it's the same coursework, that kind of thing. And you all help them
No,
through it.
that is different actually. So, because Walker and I are always going on retreat ourselves throughout the year and doing our work, our personal work constantly, whether it's separately or together, The retreat then is really, I mean, I've been facilitating retreats since 2011. And then Walker joined me about 5 years ago as a facilitator, and he is very good. He's very kind. He's very compassionate. He's very curious. We are similar, but we are very different in regard to that engagement. It's a really nice balance. So it's really like the one that we did in March. I'm trying to think what we called it. They're very experiential. It's different every time. Every retreat is where we are now. Every
Mhm.
retreat is where, what does it seem like people are needing right now? And then
Yes.
we take all of our experience, him as a trial lawyer, me as a mental health professional, the two of us in our personal work, and we create it for that retreat. But it's all about self growth. It's all about learning how to trust ourselves in all the different ways. And once the other house in Oregon is done, we will just have retreats where people can come and just be, and we can hold just nice space for each other and it not be as structured. But our retreats are work
Mhm.
overall. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
coming, I mean, it'll tell you like this is like we're holding space for you, but you're going to be glad you're leaving on Sunday because you're going to be tired because we don't want to waste your time. We
Yes.
really want you to get somewhere. We want you to feel some shift. So people don't normally leave our retreats like on a
Lifted.
high, like,
Yeah.
right? Like, they're like, "Whoa, that was a lot of work."
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, I've got lots to unravel here. But the growth piece of it is just substantial. When I think of different clients that have,
Mhm.
come 3 or 4 times over the last 13, 14 years and to see their change over that period of time is just, it's tremendous how much more brave. I mean,
Mhm.
because group work, man, it can be terrifying.
Yeah.
How
Oh
many
yeah.
people are like, I don't like groups. Like I
Yeah.
had terrible experiences with groups when I was in high school or college. I
Mhm.
don't want to do that again.
Mhm.
And then to go and have such a, nurtured, held experience where you really can step in and be vulnerable to it's
Mhm.
amazing. And we love it. I mean, it just is so rewarding
Yeah.
for us too.
Now, when people come to your retreats, do they bring a partner or like a sibling if they want to, or somebody they're working on a relationship with, or it's just
Or
for
by themselves. They can do
nice,
either. We have a mix. Yeah, we have a
nice.
mix. Some people bring a partner, some people don't. We've had adult parent before
Oh,
too, as well.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
And Walker and I cook all the meals
Oh,
and
you
it's
do?
all, yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really
Oh my
lovely.
gosh, you guys sound like the best.
So we enjoy each other. It's really
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So it's so interesting because I guess if you two hadn't come together, like this never would have happened. Like maybe with somebody else that you got into a relationship with, or that's just so neat. I mean, it's like you
Yeah.
guys were just meant to do this work together. It's
Yeah.
just really cool to hear. Yeah.
It's funny at this period of our life, right? Because we talk like if we had met each other in our 20s, we probably wouldn't
Yeah.
each other. We were at very different places in life for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, so how do people find you if they want to take your course or come to one of your retreats or listen to your podcast? Yeah.
Yeah. So myinnerknowing.com is our website. And then My Inner Knowing everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Like I said, YouTube, because that's where all of our episodes are. And I do record meditations too, just because I believe in the power of them and
Mhm.
not, I mean, it's funny, interesting, but when I was 18, I went to a seminar with Brian Tracy, who's like a business
Mhm.
mentor. I mean, he's probably 85 now, but I mean, that was 37 years full. So anyway, something like that years ago. And I bought his cassette tapes, The Psychology of Achievement then, and I would just listen to them on repeat in my car. And what was really interesting, Kim, is, when I became a therapist, people would say, "How do you know that?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And then about 10 years ago, I re-listened to the cassette tapes and I was like, it was
Oh,
from listening to Brian Tracy when I was 18, 19, 20, 21
that
years
is
old,
so cool.
because there
Yeah.
was an understanding of people that really started back then, but I mean, I think it was always there. I've always been interested in people, but that repetitive piece of it
Mhm.
so influenced me. And so I write meditation. Most of my meditations that have been published are actually in the course.
Hmm.
I'm working on doing ones that are just going to be on the YouTube channel as well. But, I'm somebody, I listen to a meditation every day. even if it's as I'm falling to sleep, because our brain and our body hears it whether we are asleep or not. Because
Mhm.
I do neurotherapy too, and so I love the brain and how we, process and integrate information, and our body still hears it even if we're asleep. In some ways, even more deeply as we're transitioning from awake to asleep, because we go through this transition where we are most suggestible between
Mm,
awake and asleep. And so that is just something that I've always done. And
yeah.
so that kind of repetitive piece of like, what part of me is trying to grow right now? And so then I pick a meditation, and for, a month or two, I'll listen to it awake or asleep, just reinforcing the message that I'm trying
That's
to
amazing.
work on. And so, yeah, we do meditations too. So there'll be more of those that are coming out, but it's
Great.
just fun. I love doing it. I love
Yeah.
writing them. I love recording them. I love picking the video pictures for them. It's fun. So YouTube's our biggest, I would say, biggest platform, but all
Okay.
the other standards, Spotify, Apple.
Well, I can't wait to check you out. Yeah,
Oh,
and go listen and learn all about you and Walker.
thank you.
Every detail of your life now.
It's funny, I don't take many new clients anymore, but I had
Uh-huh.
this woman that I took, she had had a tragedy, and she said, "I found you from your podcast." She goes like, "I just feel like I know you and Walker."
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Oh," which I think probably helped her step into even
Mhm.
that level of vulnerability she was willing to step into so quickly,
Mhm.
because I was familiar in some way to her.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that so much.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
that
love what
that's
you're doing.
well, thank you. And I was just thinking that's the interesting part because I'll hop on calls with people like discovery calls or whatever, and they'll be like, I feel like I already know you because
Yeah.
I'm always just out there. And it's
Yeah.
such an interesting thing, because especially just being a therapist, like I never thought I would be like talking about myself out there to people, like even on this
Yeah.
podcast, sharing little details of my life. Like I just never thought I would be doing that. And I am now. But yeah, so I could just relate to what you're saying. When people say stuff
Yeah.
like that, it's like so cool. It's like, yeah, you probably do know because I'm all over the place.
Right. Helping people in all the different ways. Yeah.
Trying, yeah, trying. Yeah, doing our best. So thank you. I found this conversation so interesting, and everybody listening, of course, will have all this in the show notes. And thank you,
Yeah.
Teresa.